For decades, people from various backgrounds all over the world have reported UFO sightings, starting with the Roswell incident in 1947, often seen as the first and most compelling case. As I kept watching content about UFOs over the years, and more recently about the New Jersey drones, I noticed patterns in the information disclosed to the public and several coincidences that had me scratching my head, especially after watching this 1988 KLAS-TV interview. This is John Lear, a former American aviator, Senate candidate, and son of Bill Lear, the magnate behind Learjet. He said many things that could be easily perceived as quite troubling and disturbing during an interaction with journalist George Knapp, another important figure in the ufology field I will talk about later. The first coincidental information he gave was this one.
George, basically what we're dealing with here is, I'll give you the bottom line.
Okay.
I'm not trying to sell it.
I want to hear your thesis.
I'm not trying to sell a book. I'm not trying to promote a lecture. This is based on what I've come across after intense research in the last year. And I have found out that the government has retrieved between 10 and 15 actual flying saucers, 3 of which have been in perfect condition, 1 of which they tried to fly.
We can easily compare it to what a recent whistleblower, David Grusch, said in an exclusive interview on News Nation.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
Lear also provided this compelling information.
Well, the whole thing started in July 2nd, 1947. That was the first crash.
First crash of an alien spaceship.
Of an alien spaceship. July 6th is when they recovered it and sent it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. July 6th is when they recovered it and sent it to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
I have to stop right here. Just an hour after I noted this information in my Notion file, this breaking news came out.
An alarming drone incident that forced one of the U.S.'s most critical Air Force bases to close its airspace for several hours. This happened at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base over the weekend in Ohio.
Wright-Patterson seems to be a very, very interesting base, I'm just saying. Lear added that between 30 and 50 alien bodies were stored and they represented at least 5 different civilizations. Presidents were briefed on the subjects only 3 to 4 months after getting into office, according to him. Lear also mentioned past presidents indirectly addressing the subject. For example, Reagan gave a speech in 1985 referencing aliens, and Carter once promised to inform the public about UFOs but never followed through.
I couldn't help at one point in my discussions privately with General Secretary Gorbachev, when you stop to think that we're all God's children, wherever we may live in the world, I couldn't help but say to him, just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe. We'd forget all the little local differences that we have between our countries, and we would find out once and for all that we really are all human beings here on this earth together.
According to Lear, public distrust of elected officials became so significant that presidents were no longer briefed on such topics. Even the Vatican, he said, acknowledged the possible existence of extraterrestrial life. Lear alleged that 70 different species of non-human intelligence were interacting with humans for various motives. Some were good and some were bad. He also mentioned Majestic 12, MJ-12, a secret committee of 12 prominent military and scientific figures overseeing government research and cover-ups related to alien encounters. This organization is still mentioned nowadays, by the way. Lear also revisited the 1952 UFO incident over the White House, alleging that some pilots lost their lives trying to chase these unknown aircraft. In the interview, Lear showed photos of UFOs that were verified by Bob Hopkins, a well-known researcher in ufology who also investigated the famous Barney and Betty Hill case. But perhaps the most unbelievable claim Lear made was that humans first communicated with non-human intelligence in 1964. He said there were plans for full disclosure in 1972, but it was cancelled due to the Watergate scandal dominating that year. Although skeptics labeled Lear as a conspiracy theorist due to the controversy surrounding him in the 80s and the fact that his father excluded him from his will, his claims still sparked new investigations into the topic.
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs, that are out there of extraterrestrial origin.
In fact, Lear introduced Bob Lazar, a man who claimed to have worked at Area 51 and encountered possible non-human intelligence technology to reverse engineering programs to journalist George Knapp. Knapp also interviewed Lazar in 1989. Lear stated in another interview with the same journalist in 2007 that he would do things exactly the same way despite being seen as crazy. He passed away in March 2022 at the age of 80. Let's now focus on George Knapp. The journalist recently launched a highly compelling docuseries on the subject titled Investigation Alien, available on Netflix since November 8, 2024. Remember that date? I will repeat it later for a good reason. I'm not the type to drop spoilers, but with this docuseries, I have to. I really have to, since it's packed with visual and tangible evidence that aligns with recent observations and claims from witnesses. For example, in episode 1, the docuseries dives into cattle mutilations, something John Lear mentioned during George Knapp's show back in the 80s. The details were identical: cattle found with surgical cuts and organs removed with no blood in their systems or on the ground. Decades later, Knapp found the same characteristics in dead cows and bulls on farms in Oregon. Episode 2 focuses on events in Brazil, where sightings and alleged direct interaction with UFOs occurred, including incidents where people were hit with laser blasts, literally. Episode 3 and 4 explore underwater phenomena. The ufologist and filmmaker Jeremy Corbell gave Knapp a shocking video that quickly became a media sensation.
Well, no comment from the Pentagon in regards to the now infamous video of the so-called jellyfish UFO. That video, released last week by journalist Jeremy Corbell, appears to show a UFO flying over an American base in Iraq. News Nation reached out to the Pentagon and asked if officials would confirm the video's authenticity. They told us today that, quote, "We do not comment on the authenticity of alleged DoD material that may have been leaked. The Department of Defense takes the potential unauthorized disclosure of national security information very seriously," end quote.
According to Corbell's source, the jellyfish UFO not only flew over sensitive areas of a military base in Iraq, but also went underwater for 17 minutes before emerging and taking off at incredible speed. The footage was captured in 2017 or 2018. Rory Kramer, an underwater archaeologist collaborating with Knapp, filmed a USO, unidentified submerged object, going into the water near Santa Cruz Island in California. I noticed something very strange as I was taking screenshots from this episode. The USO appeared to have a green light on its right and a red light on its left, just like FAA regulated navigation lights, assuming it was facing the boat. This aligns perfectly with numerous claims of USOs surfacing from the water near the East Coast and connects to the New Jersey drone sightings, where similar objects were reportedly spotted over the ocean before heading inland. Remember, we've only explored 5% of the ocean, leaving 95% uncharted. Later in episode 4, former US Marine Michael Herrera describes seeing a large disc-shaped UFO during a 2009 humanitarian mission following an earthquake in Indonesia. The episode also recalls a story from the mid-70s when molten material reportedly fell from a glowing red UFO. Knapp's team recovered pieces of this material, which eerily resembles recent incidents in San Jose, California in July 2024 and Wickham, England in December 2024 during the peak of the New Jersey drone sightings. The materials displayed in the docuseries were an incomplete mixture of magnesium, titanium, aluminum, silicon, and iron, which contradicted claims that they were generated by thermite that is usually a mixture of rust and aluminum only, according to researcher Gary Nolan, who appeared in that episode.
On March 13th, 1997, people across Arizona, especially here in the valley, reported seeing a silent, miles-long V-shaped group of lights gliding quietly overhead. Was it a military mission, a prank perhaps, or visitors from outer space? The questions and confusion over the sighting have only grown during the prevailing years.
Episode 5 covers the Phoenix Lights event from March 1997, where thousands in Phoenix, Arizona reported seeing a massive craft. Former Governor Fife Symington initially dismissed the event but later admitted it was real. Actor Kurt Russell also witnessed the lights and reported them to air traffic control while flying a small plane with his son that night. Despite the widespread accounts, Knapp reveals that the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has no official records of the incident. In episode 6, Bob Jacobs, a former first lieutenant in the US Air Force, recounts seeing a UFO deactivate a warhead during a missile test. The episode also examines why these beings might interact with us in such ways. Knapp made sure his research team was diverse, with experts from different fields to avoid bias. As I said earlier, the docuseries was released on Netflix on November 8, 2024, 10 days before the first sightings in New Jersey. Before I continue, I need to let you know that this portion of the video will help you understand the many acronyms surrounding this topic while providing a clearer timeline of events. Now let's go back to 2017. Leslie Kean, an American investigative journalist, co-authored an article in the New York Times revealing that the Pentagon had a secret program to study UFOs. This revelation in effect confirmed that the government recognized the phenomenon and was taking it very seriously. The program, called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, received $22.5 million in taxpayer funding. AATIP started in 2007 and officially ended in 2012, but similar programs may still be active today. For example, the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, UAPTF, existed from 2020 to 2021. The current program, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, released a public statement in March 2024, claiming there's no empirical evidence of alien technology. In parallel, it's important to note that the Pentagon has failed its financial audit in 2017 and that they failed every year since. This simply means they cannot account for where a portion of taxpayer money is being spent, a key concern when discussing the funding of illegal programs. Interestingly, Joe Rogan discussed UFO sightings over New Jersey on his podcast show.
Doug, I did a podcast with Jim Florentine, and I explained to Jim Florentine that what people don't know is that Hudson County, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, is the #1 place in the country where they have the most UFO sightings.
Really? Northern New Jersey?
Look it up, Jamie, if you get a minute, please, not to be rude.
But isn't that like near a couple airports?
No, it's closer to, like, you know, like when you live in New York City and you look at the Hudson River, they say that people go on their balcony, they're drinking coffee, they're talking on the phone, and they'll see a little flying saucer go by.
Really?
The thing is, this episode dates back to July 2019, strongly suggesting that this phenomenon has been ongoing for years.
Finally, I'd like to thank these 3 brave witnesses here. They took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and dadgummit, they're doing it. And we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Fast forward to July 2023. Congress held its first hearing on UFOs featuring whistleblowers such as David Grusch, a former US Air Force officer, Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot, and David Fravor, a retired Navy pilot and commander.
Has the government conducted secret UAP crash retrieval programs, yes or no?
Yes.
On November 13, 2024, Congress held its second UFO hearing. This time whistleblowers included Luis Lou Elizondo, former director of AATIP and counterintelligence specialist, Dr. Timothy Gallaudet, an oceanographer and retired US Navy Rear Admiral, Michael Gold, a former NASA associate administrator, and Michael Schellenberger, an author and journalist. These hearings focused on UFOs' unusual capabilities, alleged crash retrievals, and reverse engineering programs reportedly funded illegally with taxpayer money. Note that all the whistleblowers spoke under oath during those hearings. That means if they reveal any classified information or flat out lie, they go to prison. Simple as that. Just 5 days after this hearing, on November 18, 2024, the first reports of drone sightings in New Jersey emerged.
This one is extremely low. It's loud.
It's really cute.
And it's huge.
It's so big. It looks so much closer in person.
Yeah, my camera doesn't do it. It looks like a spaceship, right? Like that doesn't look like a drone, right? That looks like a spaceship. It's like a small plane. It really is like a small plane. Oh my God.
They just keep coming.
These are all drones in the sky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 right here.
What's most concerning is that some of these drones resemble man-made aircraft but displayed highly unusual characteristics. They could not be detected using known frequencies such as helicopter or radio. They did not emit normal heat signatures. They were basically cold. That's concerning because any aircraft with a propulsion system or energy source should produce heat. They were massive, comparable to SUVs in size, far larger than recreational drones. They often appeared over or near ocean and coastal areas. They sometimes showed up in large numbers, as reported by News Nation journalist Rich McHugh.
Well, I gotta be honest here. You know, when this story first came out a few weeks ago, as a resident of New Jersey, as a journalist, I didn't pay it much credence. I thought it would turn out to be a bunch of pranksters and this would all be over by now. The experience I had last night, however, changed the way I feel about this story completely. What I saw was more sophisticated than I ever imagined. Take a look.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 lights, 6 lights.
I didn't believe what I was seeing. But what was I seeing? We're here in central Jersey. We've been looking for the past hour. I think we've seen about 40 or 50 of these drones. In fact, there's one over my shoulder right there. One after another, these drones appeared in the night sky. If you look real close, they look like fixed-wing aircraft, about 8 to 10 feet wide, colorful, white blinking lights. One of their officers called 911 after seeing 50 of them come off the ocean.
Advised after we made contact with that officer that there were 50 that came off the ocean. 50? 50. That was my reaction also. There were 50 that were coming off the ocean.
And this is a sworn officer?
A sworn officer, yes. We contacted state police, we contacted the FBI, we contacted the Coast Guard, at which point the Coast Guard went out with their boat and they reported seeing 13 following their boat. And then the Coast Guard also advised that they went over them about 300 feet and had a wingspan of about 8 feet.
They went quote-unquote dark when local authorities tried to chase them. They easily invaded military airspace, not only in the US but in other countries as well. The local authorities were not able to take them down with their own technology. They were even spotted over Picatinny Arsenal and Donald Trump's golf course in the beginning of December 2024 in Bedminster. Trump publicly expressed concerns about the situation. The FBI even launched an investigation.
Our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should, because the people are really, I mean, they happen to be over Bedminster.
Will you shoot them down?
They're very close to Bedminster. I think maybe I won't spend the weekend in Bedminster. I've decided to cancel my trip.
Have you received an intelligence briefing on the drones?
I don't want to comment on that.
But his demeanor changed when he became president. The concern he displayed was no more.
I'd like to find out what it is and tell the people.
And can you commit to some kind of...
In fact, I'd like to do that. Could we find out what that was, Susie? Okay? Yeah, why don't we find out immediately? I mean, I can't imagine it's an enemy, or there would have been, you know, people would have gotten blown up all over. Maybe they were testing things. I don't know why they wouldn't have said what it was. They had a lot of them flying over Bedminster, which is interesting, right?
Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, gave a statement about the situation.
After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States.
I think we can agree that this is not enough considering all the disturbing details I just mentioned. It also completely contradicts the fact that the Pentagon itself publicly claimed that these drones did not belong to the Department of Defense. Simply put, they're not military drones. The FBI and DHS clearly stated that they did not know what they were either. We're talking about the Army and federal agencies. Many observers stated that some of these craft may be top secret American assets after all, since they seem to interact with orange orbs that are far more unusual but seen by hundreds of New Jersey residents. But recent observations stated that these orbs might actually be the drones. Listen to what Belleville, New Jersey Mayor Michael Millam had to say.
I mean, it's tough. Every time I see a video, my opinion seems to change. I mean, I've recently been watching and spent some time with the videographer out of Long Island. I mean, he has orbs, these glowing orbs of light on camera that as you watch them right before your eyes, they seem to transform into a mechanical drone. So I've actually watched it myself where these orbs are glowing balls of light, different blinking lights all over the place. And as it gets closer to you, you actually see it transform into a drone.
If you watch George Knapp's Docuseries Investigation Alien, it's very possible that you saw one of these mechanical drones morphing back into an orb without realizing it. You probably noticed that all the information I presented in this video is based on tangible clues and facts only. Although I'm not a conspiracy theorist, it does look like there is a very small group of individuals who know something and pull the strings whenever they want. If you don't believe me, watch this part of George Knapp's report from the 80s.
Speculation was heightened in 1984 when the Air Force seized nearly 90,000 acres around Groom Lake. The action was, by most accounts, illegal. During congressional hearings about the land grab, Congressman John Seiberling grilled the military about the legal authority used in the action and was told the authority was at a much, much higher level than the Air Force. Seiberling asked what authority is higher than the laws of the United States. The Air Force official said he could respond, but only in a closed briefing.
There are only three possibilities linked to this theory. The United States possesses and tests an extremely advanced technology that they developed themselves. The United States possesses and tests reverse engineered technology even against their own military assets and is being used for unknown reasons. Or the United States is engaging with another form of intelligence that is not considered harmful to the population using one of the types of technology I just mentioned. No matter what these things are, they're able to navigate in the air and underwater very easily. As if that wasn't enough, while making this video, journalist Ross Coulthard, known for his appearances on News Nation, released explosive interviews with high-ranking Army veterans confirming the existence of a UFO crash retrieval program. That includes US Air Force veteran Jake Barber, who has not only claimed that he actually retrieved crashed and landed UFOs, but also posted this on X about the New Jersey drones mystery. The activity there was not FAA approved, I know firsthand. I was assigned there specifically to look at the debacle from an FAA violation standpoint in order to provide a basis to the FBI. Someone is not presenting the whole story to our new president. According to them, non-human technology has been reverse engineered and much of what they revealed aligns with the information I just shared. All these details suggest a gradual disclosure of something very significant. While I do not claim to have definitive answers about the phenomenon, one thing is clear: something is going on.